Good afternoon, folks, from the Witkruis Monument in Limpopo province in what used to be the Northern Transvaal in South Africa. This is Chris here at the Moord Monument, the Witkruis, the White Cross Monument, as an ambassador for the White Cross project that will take place on the 26th of September, 2026 in Washington, D.C. I felt it was important while I'm in South Africa to come up here. I'd never been here. It's a bit of a drive. It took me a few hours to get up here from Pretoria, but I think it's important to come up here and see this site. The callous disregard for human life by politicians who dismissed farm murders, plasmoorde, as ordinary crime. The taking of a human life is not an ordinary crime, whether it's in the Cape Flats or it's in a farm in a remote corner of Northwest Province. The taking of human life is an extraordinary and heinous crime. Any politician or public figure who dismisses as anything other than that is callous and indifferent to human life, and it makes you wonder how anybody would trust somebody like that. These murders have taken place for decades. They've grown in attention over the past 2 decades as the numbers have been heinously high in South Africa. Now, oftentimes this is dismissed as right-wing white South Africans complaining about something, the very architects of apartheid. But that's poppycock, that's balderdash. Frankly, that's bullshit. People who are black, white, and brown are murdered on farms, heinously tortured in many cases, shockingly abused, dismembered, burned, electrocuted. These things should never happen in a civilization, a civilized society. And the fact that the justice system doesn't put more effort into prosecuting the people responsible for these heinous crimes is quite disturbing. Again, this is crime that affects all South Africans, but it is not ordinary. Farm workers, farm managers are also murdered on farms. But the media ignore that to paint this as some right-wing, white fringe issue. These markers represent white South Africans murdered on farms. And no one's heard their cry. No one has respect for the people that are here, except those who placed this monument and those who come here and pay pilgrimage to it. But what a sad statement on society that we must come to, not a graveyard, but a place where people are mentioned after they've been heinously murdered. That's a sad statement about a society. We should be celebrating the achievements of these people. Now, one thing I've noticed walking around here, looking at the names that appear on each of these metal crosses, driven into the ground, the hard soil, solid rock here, but driven in with love and compassion for those who passed. The one thing that overwhelmingly strikes me is how many of these people are elderly South Africans, the most vulnerable, isolated, unprotected on remote farmsteads and plots. And they become the targets of callous, indifferent criminals who oftentimes steal nothing. They steal absolutely nothing. Many of these crimes are listed as house robberies. In fact, they're not house robberies. They're domestic terrorist incidents in many cases, meant to terrorize people into leaving the land. And the land that's vacated by many of these people who lived on farms often lies fallow after they're dead. What a tragedy. What a horrific situation. Every country has problems. My own country has its own issues. We have challenges. But this is a challenge that shouldn't exist. There was a mechanism in South Africa to reduce this level of crime, to reduce this level of threat. The commandos illegitimately disbanded for political reasons over 2 decades ago, and we see the consequences of that. Not that the commandos would have been able to protect all of these people, but many of these people would probably be alive today had there been a deterrent, a reason for people to think twice before they target South Africans living in this country in remote areas. Without that deterrence, we see the outcome. What a sad, sad statement. Folks, from the Witkruis Monument, this is Chris. I'm an ambassador for the White Cross Project in Washington, D.C. I'll be there. 3,000 crosses will be erected on the National Mall to recognize those who passed away. But frankly, the number is more than 3,000. Very few people keep good statistics on this. And almost nobody keeps statistics on the farm managers, the farm workers. Whether it's Brendan Horner, tortured, tied to a fence post, and executed. Or whether it's Edward Neumeister, an Austrian immigrant to South Africa over 50 years ago, with his kitchen in KwaZulu-Natal, murdered viciously with a panga during COVID. or it's the Indian mother 4 months pregnant on the Ayub farm in KZN. Her throat slit while her children were left in the bedroom tied up. South African lives matter. All these lives. What say you, South Africa? God bless.